Cisco Packet Tracer, a great tool to use to learn networking and just learn how to build the topologies of networking, to see what the environment looks like, to how things communicate, and so much more. Well, I'm at AJ Tech, and today on the show, we're just going to start doing videos like this where I just want to sit down and just lab, you know, and just leave it unscripted. There'll be some scripting things here, but for the most part, leave it unscripted and just the authenticity of learning and making mistakes and correcting those mistakes as we go through this. You don't see enough of those on YouTube, and I figure why not? Why not be the guy that messes things up? All right. you got guys out there like Network Chuck and stuff. They make these such nice, cool, clean videos and how to do things. And sometimes, maybe they'll pepper in their mistakes, but man, we're just going to let this one fly. So you can get Cisco Packet Tracer at netacad.com, or you can just Google search for it. You'll have to sign up for an account on there at Cisco Academy, and you can download this thing for free and just play around with it and start learning networking concepts today. What I'm going to do today, though, is I asked Copilot. I know I use Copilot. You all probably think it sucks. I think it's okay for what it does. It does more for me on my mobile phone than on here for some reason. I don't understand that because I can't upload files on here, but dang it, it'll let me upload files on my phone. It don't make no sense to me, but here we are. But yeah, I asked it to build me this topology, this lab environment, and that's what we're going to do today. This is going to give us one router, one switch, 4 PCs, an AP, a wireless device, and we're going to build it with VLANs and run DHCP. So let's get started. No introduction needed for this. We're just going to jump right in. I'm kind of going to forgo those intro videos anymore because they're a pain in the rear to keep up to date and takes too long. And I'm sure you people probably appreciate that I'm foregoing that. So this is it right here. Cisco Packet Tracer. This is the clean lab environment right here. You got your tools down here. You got other things up here that you can do. We are on the logical page. This is basically where we build the topology. We have a physical page where it shows the devices in a rack. We'll show that here in just a little bit because right now it's got nothing. It's going to show nothing. So let's get started building. We're going to click down here where it says network devices. And I'm going to select the routers, which is already on router. I'm going to go to 2911. I'm going to pop it right here. And then I'm going to go to switches. And I'm going to do the 2960. I'm going to pop that right there. And then we are going to do 4 PCs. So we are pretty much building, I'm going to say we're building a coffee shop. I like coffee. So we're going to do this PC there, that PC there. And then we're going to do another PC here. And then another PC there. All right. I'm just going to leave them as is, 0, 1, 2, 3. All right, that's what we're going to do. And then I'm going to throw in a laptop right down here. And then I'm going to toss in, what am I looking for here? I need an AP, network device. So we'll go to wireless device. We need an AP for this coffee shop. I'm going to pop it right there. Let me drag this down a little bit further. And then I'm going to drag that down just a little bit further. All right. So we're going to start connecting these things with cables. So the lightning bolt here is your connections. You could just use that lightning bolt and it'll pick the correct type of cable for you automatically. But we're learning here. Let's dive in here. Let's do this one. The third one, what's that? It's copper cable. It's your Ethernet. So I'm going to plug it into the router. We're going to do gigabit Ethernet 0/0. Remember that. Plug it in here. I'm going to do gigabit Ethernet 0/1. All right, so there is that connection. It'll highlight it there for you. You may have to turn those on in settings if it's not there. But I'm going to name that real quick just for our reference. This is your trunk. All right, this is your trunk cable. Since we're VLANing, we're going to make that our trunk cable right there. So basically what that means, that is your highway of multi-lanes that's going to allow all the VLANs that we're going to create to travel from the switch to the router. That's how that's going to operate. All right, let's start cabling these devices here. I'm going to do that to port 1. I'm going to click on this here, and then we're going to do that to port 2. And then we'll do the same thing with this. And then we're going to utilize port 3. Just kind of build it out here. We're just building it out in order in this fashion. Port 4. All right. So we're not going to, I know this is probably too big of a switch for this environment. Because if you really look at the ports, yeah, there's a physical layer right here. Look at all these ports here. Yeah, way too many ports for a coffee shop. Let's just be real. I think a 24-port switch would do it. Actually, no, this is a 24-port switch. Maybe an 8-port switch would do it. I thought it was a 48 for some reason. But yeah, so there's that. And then we need to also connect our AP. Now, I'm going to build it like how we do in our environment for the company I work for. I'm going to put that at the very end, port 24. Plug that up, bam. Plug that up, bam. Plugged in. Now, we're not going to cable the laptop because what we're going to do with the laptop is, I'm going to show you this. Again, it shows you the physical device. We have to turn it off. I mean, really. And then we're going to scroll down here. Now, as you can see, it's recommending this adapter here for wireless, but that's not to be found here. So we're going to remove this Ethernet. We're going to install this wireless adapter. Now the computer is designed for wireless. We're going to power that back on so we can get a wireless signal. Now, we do need to configure the AP. We'll go ahead and do that real quick. So we're going to configure it. Display name for the access point. We'll just say Wi-Fi. All right. Settings. Ports. Port 1. There it is. SSID. We're not going to call it default. We want to call it Coffee Bro. We can call it Coffee Bros. There you go. Coffee Bros. Sounds great. Now, we want to make sure we have some sort of authentication. So we're going to do a WPA2. All right. And we're just going to do we'll just lowercase it. Coffee 2000. There you go. Coffee 2000. Awesome. We'll leave everything as is and call it good. Now, the other thing we want to do real quick is I want to showcase what DHCP can do. All right. So we're going to go into the desktop here, IP configuration. We're going to set all these to DHCP and not static. Now, my previous video I did with Cisco Packet Tracer, I statically assigned devices. Now that we have learned DHCP side of CLI or command line interface on Cisco devices, we can do it. All right, so we got right here, DHCP failed. Why? Why did it fail? Because we don't have it active right now. There's nothing telling it to send out an IP address. It's just shouting, I need an IP, and it failed to respond. So we'll just give it the 169 a PIP address. So that's what it's going to do automatically for each of these devices. Switch out DHCP is requesting. It'll give it a PIPA. Don't worry. But the cool thing is the PIPA addresses, they will still communicate to all the devices within the switch. They just won't be able to reach the router because the router's not enabled at the moment. But they'll still all communicate and work. If you just do that, leave it as is, it'll still work that way. So which is pretty neat. So this laptop, let's go IP configuration. All right, that's already set. I gotta turn it on to Wi-Fi. Desktop. Close that out. There it is. Wireless, PC wireless. All right, so there's the settings here. Connect. Refresh that. And it should be broadcasting the SSID of Coffee Bros. Look at that. We're going to connect. Passkey is Coffee 2000. Too many zeros. All right, connect. And it should be, yes, it is connecting. Look at that. It is broadcasting the Wi-Fi signal. It is reaching the computer. We got a PIPA address for this one. All right, I'm going to pull up a text document here because I want to show you and prove to you that, yeah, it can still ping. All right, so we're going to use this IP address here. All right, I'm going to type that in there, and then we're going to ping from the laptop, actually, just to showcase the Wi-Fi capabilities. All right, so here we go. We're going to ping 169.254.14.34. So that address is going to go to PC 0 right here, just to let you know. And then we're going to enter. And yes, it's communicating because it's making a connection. So it's working. It's doing just fine. But we want to assign VLANs. We want to get DHCP rolling. So let's go. First things first is what we're going to do is go into the switch. I'm just going to configure the switch first. Now, we'll go into the CLI for the command line interface. Enter a couple times if you want. We're going to enable the switch. And then we're going to go in what is called configure terminal. So, configure terminal, you can spell it out if you want, or let me back out, type in exit to back out. You can do CONFT to get in there. Shorter, faster, easier. I like it. All right. We're going to set up our VLANs. So our VLANs, it's really simple. We're just simply going to type in VLAN 10. All right. So now it's in configure VLAN. And we're going to name this sales. All right. This is our sales team that is at the register selling the best cup of coffee you could buy. All right. I'm going to back out of that and we're going to do VLAN 20 for our next one. Name, and we're going to call this coffee management. All right, coffee management. Coffee. We'll just do that. Coffee MGT. All right, coffee -MGT. Coffee management VLAN. All right, that's your management team. Yeah, back out of that one. And then we're going to do VLAN 30. And then the name is simply going to be Wi-Fi. There you go. Wi-Fi VLAN exit. So that takes care of your VLANs. Now we do need to configure the ports next for our devices. So that is the next step here. So we're going to do it as a group. So these two computers right here, let me drop this down here. I'm going to draw this box around here. This, dumb. We'll just draw bigger out. All right. And that, all right, we're going to put names here. This is going to be VLAN 10 sales. Okay. We're segmenting this section off as that. We're going to do the same thing here. VLAN 20 coffee MGT for management. All right. And then right down here, VLAN 30, your Wi-Fi. All right. So those are your categories. This is what we're grouping together within a group. All right? Just kind of help paints the picture. So going back to our configurations here, we need to configure our interface ports. So we're going to do interface FA for fast Ethernet ports. All right? 0/1 through 2. Oh, wait, I forgot to type in range. So interface range, FA 0/1 through 2. Okay, hit enter. Nice. So we're going to do switch port mode, and we're going to make this an access ports for both. And then we're going to do switch. You got to make sure your spelling is right. Don't go too fast. Switch access VLAN 10. Okay, I should assign the VLAN. Exit. I'm going to do this again. So we're going to do INT this time. Range, just for a short abbreviation. FA 0/3 through 4. Okay, that works. So you know the INT works for that. Switch port mode access. Switch port access VLAN 20. So that is set. And then we're going to do the final one, which we're just going to do one port for this. We don't have to do a range. So INT FA 0/24 is where our access point is on. And then we're going to do switch port mode access for this. And then we're going to do switch port access VLAN 30. Exit. So that's taking care of our VLAN settings. Let me refer back to my notes, just make sure where we're at, because I haven't looked at them yet. All right, so we got one more thing we got to do. Yeah, looks like I got them all correct. So the last thing we need to do is our trunk. So again, remember this trunk right here that's on gig 0/1 on the switch going to gig 0/0. We got to configure the trunk. So we got to go into INT G0/1, and then we're going to do switch port mode trunk. And then we're going to do switch port mode allowed. Sorry, switch port trunk. Oh my goodness, hang on, back up. Switch port trunk allowed VLAN 10, 20, and 30. Okay, that is going to make sure your VLANs 10, 20, and 30 are going to be able to travel through that trunk port into the router. So we're going to exit out of that, and we are done configuring our switch for right now. So let's kind of take a look at the physical layer while in between here of configuring devices. So here's your corporate office, and this is it right here. Bam, look at that. That's the rack. This is what we have installed and built via the interface, the logical template. So you got your power right here. You got your router. That's a big router. You got your switch right here. The cable's all plugged in. You got your AEP right here, rocking and rolling. Any device on the floor? Not today, because they're elsewhere in the building. All right, so to kind of show you that there. Now let's go to the router to configure this. And we'll go to the CLI command line interface. Type in no here because that's annoying. Enable router. And then we're going to do config T for configure terminal. And then this is where we're going to basically go to what is called router configuration, router on a stick. All right, so we are in that mode. We're going to do interface G0/0 to go into that port. We're going to do no shutdown. We are opening this port. It is going to be active now. And it's done. As you said, it says change state to up. The port is now up. It is on. It is online. It is ready to go. Now we're going to go back and then we're going to go back into interface G0/0, but we're going to do a .1 for the VLAN 10. All right. We're going to do an encapsulation. That's telling us that's up now. So encapsulation, that is a terrible spelling, so yell at me. Solation. There we go. I bet I probably got this wrong. Encapsulation.1Q10. I got it. All right, spelling is working. Then we're going to set our IP address 192.168.10.1. That is your default gateway for that VLAN. Subnet mask, the 255.255.255.024 subnet mask. Enter. We're going to back up now. And then we're going to do it again. Interface G0/0.20 this time. State is up. Encapsulation. Man, I cannot type today. .1Q20, and then IP address 192.168. This time 20 for the VLAN 20, and then .1. That's your default gateway for VLAN 20, and then your subnet mask. I'm going to exit out of that, and then we're going to do it one more time here. Brain freeze. Hang on, I'm getting there. 0.30. All right, that's now up. Encapsulate first. Encapsulation.1Q30. Enter IP address 192.168.30 this time. .1. Your subnet mask. And done. All right. And done. All right. All right. Exit out of that. Now, the other thing we got to do now, and this is our last steps here, DHCP configuration. Now, this is going to have us start off with, why is that up there? It's going to have us start us off with a DHCP exclusion range. So we're going to exclude the range of .1 through 20. This is for Copilot, by the way. All right, Copilots make me do this. I don't have to do this, all right, but I'm doing it. Just follow along here. So what we're going to do is we're already in the configuration terminal, as my steps say, configuration terminal. IP DHCP is what we're going to type in. Excluded address of 192.168.10.1, 192.168.10.20. So we're excluding that entire range of IP addresses. So pretty much that's going to tell you the next IP assignment that is going to go to the next device is going to be .21. So that's how that's going to work. Do the same thing here. I'm actually going to up arrow just for the sake of time. And I'm just going to change each of these to the proper VLAN. So this will be 20. Cheating here. This will be 20. And then up arrow again. And we're going to change that to 30. And then we're going to change that to 30. Just to save for the sake of time. All right, so that's done. Then we're going to do IP DHCP pool. VLAN 10. Okay. The network for that is 192.168.10.0. That is the network address. Not the default gateway. That is the network address. So that's like telling us the whole network range. And of course, 24-bit subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. And then we're going to do default router. If I can spell it. 192.168.10.1. That's your default gateway for VLAN 10. All right. Then we're going to do our DNS server of Google DNS 8.8.8.8. Enter. Back out. Okay. We're going to do this again for VLAN 20. IP DHCP pool VLAN 20. Okay. Network address for that is going to be 192.168.20.0 this time for the VLAN 20. Subnet mask. Default router. 192.168.20.1. Okay, that's your gateway. Enter. DNS server 8.8.8.8. Enter. All right, we're going to back out one more time. Here we go. Well, we'll back out a couple other times. IP DHCP pool VLAN 30. Enter. Network 192.168.30.0. Subnet mask right there. Enter. Default. Let me move that mouse. Good night. Router 192.168.30.1. DNS server 8.8.8.8. All right. Enter. Exit. Okay. Make sure that's all I got here. That is it. All right. We are done with that. So, a couple other things we can do here while we're here in this terminal. We can show some stuff here. So we can do show IP interface brief. So it'll give us a brief right here of what we got going on. So gigabit Ethernet 0/0.10. There it is. That's the IP. The .20. That's the IP. And then the same thing for that. So that's pretty cool right there to show you that those are configured correctly. Then we can do show IP route. So it shows the routes that it can take right here. Gives you some codes up here. C right here for connected, and then L for local. So it kind of tells you that right there, where that they are directly connected to things. All right, so that's pretty sweet right there. And then we can do show IP DHCP binding. That's going to show us our devices right here. Look at that. So these are our computer. These are all 5 computers right here. As you can look at, these are the IP addresses that got assigned to each of these computers. This is the hardware ID or MAC address, if you will. But as you can see, they all got assigned IP addresses now. They're no longer the 168 address. They are now assigned specific IP addresses within their respective VLANs and network addresses. So that's pretty cool. So if we can hover over here, or click on it. Let's just click on it. And as you can see, there's the IP address. It automatically pooled that IP address for this device. Same thing for this one. Yep, this is the .21. This is the .22. This will probably be the .21. Yep. And then that is the .22. And then, of course, our laptop that's on Wi-Fi. Here it is. 30.21 as well. Everything's connected. Everything is working. Everything's flowing. It is a beautiful thing. Let's use a couple ping tests. We're going to ping from the laptop again. So just kind of test some theories out here. So we're going to ping 192.168.10.21. We're going to do that computer. See if that reaches it. Let's find out if it does. It's thinking about it. Request timed out. We got some replies going on. So it is reaching that device up there. So that's on the VLAN 10 network. We're going to do the 20.21 computer. It'll start out the same way probably, where it won't, where it'll time out, and then it'll go through the replies. Maybe it might actually just keep timing out for all we know. Yeah. Yeah, okay, it's just going to sit here and time out on us right here. Labbing is great. All right. But, you can reach the gateways here. So we're going to type in .1. Yep, you can hit the VLAN 20 gateway. You can do the .30.1, which that's the one that the laptop currently lives on, is the 30.1. So it can reach that gateway. It can do 10.1 right there. It can reach the gateway for that as well. So pretty cool, pretty neat lab right here for this environment. We're going to also go here. We're going to see IP config. It should give you your information right there. Yep, IP config. So it'll tell you what address it has, what subnet mask, what default gateway it's on. So that's pretty cool. IPv6. It gives you a link local IPv6 as well. So we're going to go ping its computer next to it, the 168.10.22, and yeah, automatically replies. So that's pretty neat. So that's pretty much it for this lab right here. So what we have done in this lab, we have built a trunk. We have created VLANs 10, 20, and 30, as you can see right here. Sales, coffee management, and Wi-Fi. We've implemented an access point and got it configured to where this laptop is communicating to that. Everything is communicating through the switch into the trunk to the router. So pretty neat, pretty awesome lab environment for you guys for this episode of AJ Tech. We'll do more of these in the future. But thank you guys so much for watching. Have yourselves a great day and take care.